Hey everyone, welcome to Small Group. I'm Chris, this is Alita,
Hey.
and this is the small group discussion video where we kind of recap Sunday's message and dig a bit deeper into the text we're looking at in all our small groups. And so glad you're here, and so glad you're here. It's been a while since I've been on this program.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back with you. It's been a while for you as well.
Yes, it has. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Anything new in your life?
Nothing new. I can't think of nothing noteworthy to share with everybody.
Okay.
But thanks for asking. You?
No, same old.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Well, let's go then. Let's get into the scripture. We're at the part in the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus starts to meddle with our lives quite a bit.
Yes, he does.
Jesus starts to go into the nitty-gritty and how we relate to one another.
Yeah.
And
Super practical.
Yeah, and I think in the text Jared preached on last week, he talked about this righteousness that exceeds that of the Pharisees and the scribes. And then Jesus is going to give examples of that and how he's after the heart. Yeah. And why don't you take us into the passage that you spoke on this past Sunday? Right.
So we were in Matthew 5. Verses 21 through 26. And this is the part where Jesus talks about anger. And he actually starts by saying, you have heard it said, do not murder. But then he takes it even deeper and says, but I say, don't even be angry. So kind of the roadmap that we followed in Jesus's teaching is that he identifies this problem of the root being anger. And then he gives us a couple of examples. And then he gives us the solution and lays out really just a really practical solution for us, how we deal with when we have anger in our hearts and when we're out of sorts with somebody else. And the answer is reconciliation. So we talk a lot about that on Sunday.
Do you remind me in the message, do you get into the difference between a righteous and an unrighteous anger? You know, the Apostle Paul says, in your anger, do not sin, which implies that you can be angry without sinning. Yeah. And Jesus, of course, we all love the scene where Jesus comes into the temple and he sees the money changers. He's like flipping tables over. And we're like, that's Jesus I can get on board with.
People also can misuse that story.
Sure. Like Jesus is super violent.
Yeah.
Out of control.
Yeah.
Enraged Jesus. Yeah, it says he made a whip from the cords, which takes, patiently.
A little bit of time.
Yeah, a little bit of time. This is a little bit beside the point. But there is this idea, there's this righteous anger.
Yeah, healthy anger.
Yeah, and so how do you get into that? What
we get into that. And just briefly, but I think it's important to note that, like you said, Paul says in Ephesians, be angry, but in your anger, do not sin. So there's the implication being that there are moments when it is appropriate for us to be angry. Think about everything that's going on in Ukraine right now. We should get angry over things. Our feathers should get ruffled. But we don't have to sin. We can be angry without sinning. They don't have to go together. And so that's...
So so then the anger Jesus is wanting to talk about is, and even he talks about raka, which means empty-headed. It's like a form of contempt. It's like anger that's hardening into hostility, hatred, bitterness, contempt for another human being. The kind of contempt that naturally could lead to murder.
Yes.
Murder might be a little bit further down the road, but they're still traveling on the same road. Yeah. And that's maybe something we'd love you to talk about, just that distinction, righteous, unrighteous anger. How do you know? I think it's a conversation we've even had before in the history of our church, but one that's good to keep coming back to. Sure. Another thing that I loved about your message, one of many things I loved, was how the picture Jesus gives around the reconciliation theme, how easy it is for us to actually misread that. Yeah. So why don't you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so Jesus gives this funny, exaggerated story, and the people who were listening, the crowd who was around him would have understood kind of the funny nature in which he was using this story, where he says, okay, so where they were sitting, where Jesus was telling the story, was 70 miles away from Jerusalem. And so he says, if you're going to the altar to make an offering, which the altar was located in Jerusalem, then he says, if you're going there, and while you're there making your offering, remember that you have something off with somebody else, leave your offering, go back, get things right, and then go back again. So 70 miles, that's, there and back.
Walking,
walking, right?
Chilliwack?
Yeah. Is it? I don't know. Anyway,
it's a long walk.
It's the implication, the picture Jesus was giving is that this is going to cost you time. It's going to be inconvenient, especially, the longer that we let anger fester and go on, the costlier it is, the more uncomfortable it is to have to work through it. But I love that Jesus gives this picture, because he's just saying it matters. Yes, it's going to be inconvenient, quite possibly. Yes, it's going to cost you something, but regardless, you are to get right with those people and the distinction even there is not just that we are to get right with those people that we're not okay with.
It's another Amazon delivery.
Oh, love it. Thank you. Not just that we're not supposed to, or that we're supposed to get right with people who are upset with us, not just the people that we're upset with.
It's commendable how little the Amazon delivery guy fazed you.
I saw him in the window. He was waving.
Right.
Was that rude? I didn't wave back.
It is a little rude, but that's fine.
Sorry.
That's fine. There's another pastoral word you gave. No, shame off you, not shame on you. You're fine.
I need to be reconciled with him.
No. Christina Kane has this great line where she's like, I said Christina?
I think you did.
How many times will I do this on the corner? You edit that out. Christina Kane, she has this great line where it's like, the world's like, shame on you. The gospel, shame off you.
Love it.
So don't worry about that.
You're welcome at our church anytime, Christine.
Yeah. Or Christina, as some say. So, okay, let's get this back on track. You gave a pastoral word that I think that's really important around like reconciliation and forgiveness. I wonder if you could just share that. That's probably how we'll end, and it's just another piece of conversation.
Yeah, I think that, for one thing, there is a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness is the catalyst for being reconciled with somebody else, but there are definitely situations in which, and maybe some of you have experienced this, where there can be a shift in your heart, and that's where the shift needs to take place, is where forgiveness takes place there. But the person through where your relationship is at odds or whatever, they're not a safe person to be around. They're not a person that you should actually be even in a room with. So I absolutely believe that there are situations where forgiveness and reconciliation can take place in our hearts without having to be in a relationship again with the person. But for many of us, that's not the case. And there are strained relationships. And I mean, even just thinking over the last couple of years, family relationships, friendships, things that have happened because we have, we've gotten angry over things. And I'm not saying that all of those things are wrong, or some of them, though, might be misguided. And even just a throwback to the Beatitudes, where we think about, is my being right more important than my being rightly related?
Wow, yeah.
And so my prayer for our church community, really, as I've just been prepping for this, has been that the Lord would begin to cause some of those walls we've built up to crack, and that we would want to be in a restored relationship with other people if they're people that we've offended, and that we would humble ourselves and be willing to ask for forgiveness and be reconciled.
For some of us, if the pain's real fresh, forgiveness and especially reconciliation seems like an insurmountable hill to climb. And I wonder if the prayer tonight is just, God, give me the desire to start the journey of forgiveness and reconciliation, if possible. And to recognize that it's all actually just a mirroring or expression of the gospel, that God went to great lengths in Jesus to reconcile us to himself. It cost him. It was inconvenient. It led to a cross, but he did it because he is so merciful and loving and kind. And as we've been reconciled to God, we're to become agents of reconciliation in the world. And so there's a lot to talk about there. And so we're going to throw to discussions. Thanks for being on the corner. Another Amazon delivery.
Love it.
They just don't stop.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah.
I did it.
And bless you guys. Have a good night.
Bye.